Hello and welcome. Today we're going to uncover a force that is so powerful it can literally shape a country's future, everything from its economy to the way its cities grow. And it all starts with one single question. So, what do you think it is? What's the one thing that has the biggest impact on birth rates, death rates, even where people decide to live? Is it technology, big wars, climate change? Well, all of those are obviously huge deals, but the data, when you really dig into it, points to something that's, a lot more fundamental. Something that's both deeply personal and a massive global force. That's it. Turns out, the status of women in any given society is the single best predictor of its demographic destiny. It's not an exaggeration to say that when women are empowered, the entire world changes. So let's break down how that actually works. Okay, so it all starts with a society's basic structure. It really boils down to this. What role do women play? For geographers, this is the first domino that has to fall. You can basically break societies down into two camps. On one side, you've got traditional roles, where a woman's value is often tied pretty tightly to being a wife, a mother, and running the household. On the other side, you've got egalitarian roles, where status is equal, decisions are shared, and women are a full part of public life. That journey, from the left side of the screen to the right, that is what kicks off these massive, world-altering shifts. So how does a society actually make that journey? What gives it the push from traditional to egalitarian? Well, it really comes down to three incredibly powerful levers of change. These are the big three: education, employment, and healthcare. Seriously, think of these as the engines of empowerment. When women get real access to these three things, they gain so much more control over their own lives. Let's dig into each one. First up, education. There's this phrase that's maybe a little blunt, but it sums up a mountain of global data perfectly. More books, less babies. Getting girls into school is one of the most reliable predictors of falling birth rates. And here's why that connection is just so incredibly strong. For one, when girls and young women are in school, they naturally tend to get married and have children later in life. But it goes deeper. Education gives them the tools to think critically, to maybe question old cultural norms, and to make their own informed decisions about family size. Next up, employment. This one is a game changer. When a woman earns her own income, it completely rewrites the power dynamics at home. Having her own money gives her a real voice, a real say in the big family decisions. And that absolutely includes how many children to have and when. And the third lever is healthcare. This one is huge because it gives women direct biological control. We're talking about access to contraception, safe medical care, and just better health services for mothers in general. It means that building a family becomes a conscious choice, not just something that happens by chance. Okay, so we've seen the levers that get things started. Now, let's watch the dominoes fall. This is where you can actually see the numbers shift across the entire globe. It's a pretty dramatic chain reaction. The connection here is just undeniable. In places where women have high levels of empowerment, fertility rates go down, population growth slows way down, and the whole population gets older. And you see the exact opposite where empowerment is low. So the bottom line is this: the status of women directly sculpts a country's entire population pyramid. But hang on, the domino effect doesn't just stop with birth rates. The next link in the chain is mortality. And the impact here is incredible and incredibly positive. We start seeing healthier families and healthier communities all around. So first, you see this huge drop in the infant mortality rate. It makes sense, right? When women have fewer children, they can invest more time, more money, more care into each one. You combine that with better health and education, and suddenly the children they do have are far more likely to survive and thrive. And at the very same time, it gets a lot safer to be a mom. The maternal mortality rate just plummets. Better healthcare makes pregnancy and childbirth so much less dangerous. You get healthier mothers, which leads to healthier babies. It creates this amazing, virtuous cycle. Now get this. This quest for empowerment literally changes the map. The final domino is migration, and there's this fascinating pattern. A geographer named Ravenstein pointed out way back in the 1880s that women are more likely to move within their own country than men. And you know what? It's still true today. A perfect example is what's happened in China. Over the last 40 years, millions upon millions of women have moved from rural villages to the big cities, all looking for jobs, for economic independence, for a better life. It's a story that is played out all over the world. So we've seen the causes and we've seen the effects. But let's pull back for a second. What's the big picture here? Why is it so critical for all of us to understand this equation? Because this isn't just some interesting theory. For people who plan for the future, geographers, economists, city planners, this connection is a powerful tool. It lets us predict what the workforce will look like, where people are going to move, and what a society will need in terms of schools, hospitals, and housing. And that really brings us to the key takeaway. The empowerment of women isn't some soft social issue that's separate from the hard data of economics or geography. It is the data. It's one of the core drivers that explains how our world works and where it's going next. Which really just leaves us with one last question to think about. We've seen how investing in women's education, their health, and their economic freedom creates this cascade of good things for everybody. So, if we know this one key unlocks so much progress, what's stopping us from turning it everywhere?